that purpose, and then we'll decide where we go once we've heard the evidence that leads up to the point where the warrant is issued.
That's fine, Your Honor.
Just to clarify, we're hearing on the administrative inspection warrant. This is not the actual trial that we're engaging in right now, correct?
Well, I don't know how much farther than that we're going to go today, but we're going to hear at least that much of it today.
As long as I get the chance to call, get their witnesses and ask them if we go to trial, I just want to make sure this.
Well, I don't think we've made a determination yet how much farther than that we're going to go. We're going to go that far.
Okay.
Are you ready to proceed, Your Honor?
I don't have any time.
May I report, Your Honor?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a document, a set of documents that have been provided to Mr. Freeman, organized in a chronological manner. It does contain the information up through the administrative inspection warrant, including the administrative inspection warrant, Your Honor. What I intend to do with a witness, and Mr. Fred Parcells, I'm going to call Mr. Parcells to the stand. What I intend to do, Your Honor, is walk through with Mr. Parcells the first documents in this folder up through the administrative inspection warrant.
Sir, would you bring it right in? Please to swear your testimony here will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Have a seat if you would, please. And would you begin, sir, by stating your full name and spelling your last name?
Frederick B. Parcells, P-A-R-S-E-L-L-S.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, please.
Mr. Parcells, I'm going to hand you a copy of this folder as well. I'll be asking you to go through it with the court. You might want to use the table. Mr. Parcells, you stated your name for the record. I appreciate that. Are you currently employed?
I am.
And where are you employed?
I am currently employed by title as a part-time housing inspector for the City of Keene Code Enforcement Department.
And would you please briefly explain for the court what those duties entail?
In that capacity, I am involved with housing standard issues under Keene City ordinances, things such as heating, electrical, maintenance, plumbing, structural matters with regard to structures. As well, I deal with property issues, the outside of buildings, so to speak, relative, basically aesthetic matters, parking issues, lawn overgrowth, trash, dumpster situations. And lastly, and to a lesser degree, I deal with zoning matters, such as the issue at hand today, specifically the city's belief that a property is being used in a manner not consistent with the zoning district that it may be in. And lastly, under the zoning codes, I deal with sign issues, banners and sign locations and things of that nature.
Thank you. Are you familiar with 75 Leverett Street?
I am.
Do you know what zone 75 Leverett Street is contained in under the city zoning code?
Low density.
And could you briefly explain for the court what low density is?
Low density primarily has 8 uses that are allowed in it. The two that come to mind for most people in low density is single family home and or a duplex or 2-family home. Under city ordinance, there are 8 total uses. The single family, the 2-family are allowed. There's also light farming, so to speak, allowing small animals, and historic areas where the public is open to the public. The other 5 uses are by exception. You would have to go to the zoning board and seek a special exception for the other uses, such as a group home, as an example. But that's by special exemption only.
All right, thank you, Mr. Parcells. Your Honor, just for the court's ease, we have included documents number 17 and 18. The court will notice in the beginning of the book there is a table of contents. Each one of the documents is date stamped, beginning with the first relevant page and ending at the last. Documents 17 and 18 appear at pages 66 to 76 and 77 to 78 of the booklet. Those are the relevant zoning provisions with respect to this discussion. It includes the definitional requirements that we're going to be talking about. We would like to admit those, Your Honor.
Mr. Freeman, any
Mr. Parcells, are you familiar with how 75 Leverett Street was classified by the city prior to the issuance of an administrative inspection warrant?
As a single-family home.
And as a single-family home, that's permitted in the zone?
Yes, it is.
Did you have occasion to learn or come to some belief that 75 Leverett Street was not being used in that capacity?
I did.
Would you explain for the court how that knowledge came to you?
In the course of my job, Your Honor, I'm required to attend on a periodic basis what we commonly refer to as neighborhood group meetings. There is such a neighborhood group known as the West Central. It's a geographic designation. West Central group that primarily covers the area in which Mr. Freeman's property, 75 Leverett Street, is located. This is a group of neighbors, people who live immediately next door and or in a certain geographic radius of the property in question. And they meet periodically, and both I have a coworker, but I attend these meetings. And it was during one such meeting on or about February 17th of 2012 that a group of the neighbors, members of this particular group, were present, and not by name because they prefer anonymity, but they brought to my attention via a complaint, if you will, that they believed that the property at 75 Leverett Street was being used as more than just a single-family property, based on their observations of seeing cars coming and going, a great number of cars, a great number of people, individuals, both male and female, coming at all days of the week and all hours of the day. And anecdotally, this group of individuals making up the neighborhood group said, we think that they're renting space there, that there's a lodging house or something of that nature going on. So I took that information in on or about February 17th of 2012.
Now, you used the word lodging house. Does that term have significance to you as somebody who has a responsibility for enforcing the zoning ordinance?
Well, in that, if in fact that existed at 75 Leverett Street, it would be contrary to the low-density zone requirement that the property is situated in.
Mr. Parcells, I'm going to direct your attention and the court's attention to page 71 of the binder that I've given you, and ask you whether or not the zoning ordinance includes the definition of lodging house.
Indeed, it does.
And you could just summarize for the court what that definition entails.
It's a dwelling for more than 4 unrelated persons, which lets sleeping accommodations for a transient or permanent basis without personal care services and with or without meals, but without separate cooking facilities.
I also believe you used the phrase, the word tourist home. Directing your attention to page 75 of the back of the materials. This again, for the court's application, is part of the zoning ordinance for the city, portion of which is attached. And is there a definition for tourist home?
Yes, it reads, a tourist home means a private home with rooms leased for overnight transient accommodations, and then it goes on to talk about motels, apartments, etc.
Are either of those uses permitted in the low-density zone?
They are not.
Now, with respect to after this meeting that you had with the neighborhood association, what did you do at that point?
I started to do some research, if you will, because I had some vague awareness with regard to the property in question that there was I'm not sure how to phrase it, a group, an association, something of that nature, called the Keene Activity Center. And so I went on the internet and did a little research on the Keene Activity Center and came up with certain writings posted and certain photographs which seemed to agree with the observations being made by the members of the neighborhood group that perhaps rooms or beds or bunks or however you would define it were being let out for some kind of financial remuneration. There were photographs seemingly depicting individuals reclining in what I would call a bunk bed or bunk beds. So there seemed to be a consistency there to what the neighbors had already told me.
Now, I'm going to direct your attention to page number 1 of the set of documents. Not that you had this information, actually page number 2, I apologize. After you had this information, what did you do with it?
I communicated via email to Mr. Freeman, I apologize.
And why did you communicate by email?
Because he didn't want to talk with me. I couldn't go on he didn't want me on his property, and we had agreed the day prior on the email occurred on May 3rd, but the day prior on May 2nd, and I wrote here, per your request in your last email response to me yesterday, Wednesday, May 2nd, and contrary to my preference, I will communicate to you via this email message that information which I have preferred, that information which I would have preferred to convey to you in a face-to-face manner.
Did you request the opportunity to inspect the property to make a determination as to whether or not the evidence that you had gathered with respect to the use of the property was accurate or not?
Yes, I did. I wrote, specifically, I wish to make you aware of the city's belief that your property located at 7375 Leverett Street is being used as something other than a single or two-family property as allowed under the city's zoning ordinance. Specifically, based on the evidence we have reviewed, the city believes that you are running a tourist home or some other business providing overnight transient accommodations. You are being respectfully asked to consent and to allow for a voluntary inspection of that side of your property listed as 75 Leverett Street so that a determination can be made as to the validity or not of said belief. Thank you for your consideration of this matter, Fred.
And did you receive a response from that?
I did. On the same day, May 3rd, Mr. Freeman responded, Fred, I am certainly not doing any such thing as I am quite busy with my radio business. I am sure you are aware that I live at 73 and tenants live at
Mr. Parcells, I'm going to interrupt you, I think. I don't think the court needs us to read the entire document into the record. I'll submit to the court for that. The question
in essence, he said no.
He said he would not let you inspect.
That's correct.
All right.
No, I'd like to object. I mean, he did read through his email, and mine is fairly short.
That's fine, Your Honor. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just would like to remind Mr. Parcells that the court has the record. If the court would allow that, it does seem fair to me because he did read his into the record.
Go ahead, Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Starting over. Fred, I am certainly not doing any such thing as I am quite busy with my radio business. I am sure you are aware that I live at 73 and tenants live at 75 as per our previous discussions. If you believe they are violating an ordinance, please send me the ordinance in question and the evidence upon which you are basing this accusation, and I will be happy to present it to them. Excuse me. I will respectfully decline to allow an inspection. My tenants have a right to privacy. If they are not hurting anyone or upsetting my neighbors, then it is none of my business what they do over there. All the best, Ian.
Thank you, Mr. Parcells. Your Honor, I'd request that document number 1 consisting of those 2 pages be removed.
Any objection, Mr. Freeman?
No objection.
All right, thank you.
All right, Mr. Parcells, after that occurred, did you receive another communication from Mr. Freeman?
The criminal trespass notice,
Did you receive a criminal trespass notice?
I received it through the city manager's office here, not directly.
All right, direct your attention to page 3 of the material. And have you take a look at that?
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize that?
I do.
And could you explain to the court what your understanding is of that document?
That I and other employees of the city of Keene were prohibited from stepping foot upon the property at 7375 Leverett Street henceforth.
Subsequent to that, Your Honor, I'd like to request that the no trespass order be admitted into the record.
Any objection, Mr. Freeman?
No objection.
Thank you.
Mr. Parcells, subsequent to your review of the information that you had available to you, did you have any other discussion with city staff with respect to what was may have been going on at the property?
I did. I presented basically to the assistant city attorney.
Mr. Parcells, I'm going to direct your attention more directly. Did you have any conversation with the fire department?
I did, I'm sorry. with Captain Lafrenia, fire inspector for the Keene Fire Department.
Why would you have had that discussion with Captain?
Well, there were two issues at hand in my mind. One was the neighborhood's concern that perhaps there was a violation of the zoning ordinance in that there was a lodging house or something of that nature occurring there. And then if that were the case, the next concern, which is more in the purview of the fire department, is whether or not there's adequate fire protection, specifically smoke detectors, carbon monoxide, etc.
Now, turning your attention to page number, it's actually page numbers 4 through 22 of the document set that I provided to you. I'd like you to take a moment and look through pages 4 through 22. Oops.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with that sort of paperwork document?
I am.
And can you briefly explain to the court what that document is?
It was a request for an administrative inspection warrant to be issued, a request from your office, the city attorney's office. It contained the affidavit presenting to the judge the belief of the city that there was a violation, two violations perhaps, one the zoning violation and the other perhaps inadequate fire safety protection. That request was accompanied by an affidavit by Captain Lafreniere of the Keene Fire Department delineating his beliefs in the matter, and then an affidavit by myself delineating my beliefs and my findings relative to the request for the inspection. And then there was another copy of the trespass notice issued to the city manager's office. There was some writings by...
I'm going to ask you to go through those in detail in just a moment, but in general, this is a packet of materials that was submitted to the court as part of the administrative inspection warrant request.
Yes, sir.
And it contained an affidavit from you and an affidavit by Captain Lafreniere.
That is correct.
Now, the administrative inspection warrant was requested after the no trespass order was issued, is that right?
That is correct.
And it was issued after Mr. Freeman had stated both verbally and now in writing that he wouldn't allow anybody in the property.
Yes, sir.
Now, taking a look at the administrative inspection warrant, I think you testified, I believe you testified that part of the concern that you had was whether or not the property was being used as a lodging home or a tourist home. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, I'm going to direct your attention to page 17 of the document set, which is part of the request for administrative inspection warrant. Could you briefly identify what this document is?
This is a copy of a finding that I found on the internet, referred to here as the Shire Society Forum, and it's entitled HTTP Forum Shire Society /housing/visiting Keene -stay at the KAC, which I believe means Keene Activity Center. It was posted apparently, or it's titled "Visiting Keene?" ? Stay at the KAC! It was posted by a Pete, E-Y-R-E, not sure how he pronounces that, on January 4th, 2012, at 12:44 and 27 seconds p.m. on that date. It contains writings. It starts out, does Your Honor want me to read this verbatim?
It's up to the court. I'll let the court review the record. I'll ask specific questions with respect to the document, Your Honor. I didn't mean to step on Mr. Freeman with respect to the last one, but I think we'd be here.
Are you asking to introduce this?
Yes, I am
document?
going to ask you to introduce this, Your Honor.
Mr. Freeman, any objection to that?
I have no objection.
All right, so I have the document.
Yes.
You want him to?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Mr. Parcells, directing your attention to the middle of the document, does it indicate whether or not there's some payment expectation or request or belief?
That's my belief that that's what it speaks to. It says minimalist, question mark. Claim a couch for a donation of 15 FRNs, which I think means Federal Reserve notes, /night. And then the next line down states, need a little more privacy, sleep in the bunk room for a donation of 20 FRNs /night.
So what did that indicate? Let me ask you this question. Based upon this document, did you have any belief that this document was associated with 75 Leverett Street?
I did have that belief because, again, I had knowledge, or at least a belief, that the Keene Activity Center was located at 75 Leverett Street, based on prior actions and interactions.
Prior actions and interactions with who?
Mr. Bernard, Mr. Freeman,
With respect to this specific property?
with respect to this specific property.
Excuse me. So, with respect to this document then, did you form an opinion based upon the contents of the document as to your investigation of the property?
Based on that and more that I
Well,
also
yeah, I'm
found,
talking
yes,
about this one in
but
particular.
certainly that seemed to agree with the neighbors' observations that there was more than just a single-family residence occurring at that property. That was consistent with their beliefs.
Was this document submitted to the court
It was.
as part of the administrative inspection
Yes,
warrant?
it was.
I'm going to turn your attention to page number 19 of the document set,
Yes, sir.
and ask you if you can identify what this document is.
Also on the internet, under Facebook, I found a posting entitled Keene Activity Center. And it goes on to list some information relative to that.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I would request that these documents actually do form the administrative inspection warrant as a whole, Your Honor. I need to go through them individually with respect to what the court wants to do. But if there's no objection by Mr. Freeman, we could request that the administrative inspection warrant and its attachments be admitted.
Mr. Freeman?
I'm not
These
sure.
documents, let me ask you this, are these documents already in the court's file?
They were part of the administrative inspection warrant that was submitted to the court, yes, sir.
Okay, you're referring to pages 4 through 22.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So I guess the request is then to admit those documents as the basis for issuing the warrant?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Freeman, that's the claim that's being made. The contents of those documents, pages 4 through 22, were the basis for issuing the inspection warrant.
Yeah, I have no objection to those being admitted.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. And Mr. Parcells, back to page number 19. Let me ask you, did you personally pull this down off of the internet?
I did.
And did you pull it off down as part of your prior inspection of the property?
Yes, sir.
And to summarize for the court what you found is what that document meant to you.
It seemed to be more evidence of the neighborhood belief and fast becoming my belief that rooms were being rented or let out for some kind of charge, if you will, financial charge. Primarily the last line, or one of the last lines, that want a place to crash, underlined, while checking out Keene. Again, that seemed to be consistent with the other writings found on the other website about if you're staying in Keene, you need a place to stay. Here it is.
And again, was this document consistent with the use of the property that the city understood as a single-family residence?
It was not consistent with a single family.
Right, now I'm going to turn your attention to pages 20, 21, 22 of the administrative inspection request, and ask you to identify those.
These are photographs that were taken off the website and off the Facebook for the Keene Activity Center. Page 20, there, I don't know how good your honest photograph is, but a clearer photograph would depict what appears to be a wooden three-level, I'll refer to as a bunk bed, if you will. And then a clearer picture picture, you would see the images of three males depicted reclining at each level. That's page 20. Page 21 appears to be more of a metal two-level bunk bed type structure with nobody reclining or on that structure. And then page 22 depicts two males sitting on what appear to me to be couches in a room within the property in question.
And those were photographs that you located on the internet, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And your understanding was that they were in connection with the Keene Activity Center?
Yes, sir.
And you had a prior understanding and belief that that was located at 75 Level Street?
Yes, sir.
Now, finally, Mr. Parcells, I'm going to ask you, at least with respect to this set of documents, to look at page number 19, I'm sorry, 18 of the document set.
Yes, sir.
Can you identify this document?
This is just a page that I printed off the internet and given its location just after the Shire Society Forum page. It's my belief that it was attached as part of that page, and it states Keene Activity Center, February 29. It doesn't show a year, and it states meet the new crash space names. And then there is a listing of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're self-identified as bunks, or couch, or futon, metal bunk, triple bunk, etc. And there are 9 with individual names. If you want, I can read them.
No, that's fine.
It's on the record.
Now, in connection with this request, your affidavit appears in the document set, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And did you accurately summarize your review and investigation of what you understood to be occurring at the property at that point in your affidavit?
Yes, sir.
And did you, at least for purposes of the affidavit and the request for the inspection warrant, have a preliminary conclusion with respect to the use of the property?
It was my belief, based upon the input from the neighborhood group, as well as my findings, that there was something other than a single or two-family house occurring at 75 Leverett Street, more specifically a lodging house or by some other name, a location where rooms or beds were being let out for a financial charge.
And did you share this information with the fire department?
I did.
Specifically with Captain Lafreniere?
I did.
And Captain Lafreniere drew his own conclusions with respect to those, didn't he?
He did, and filed his own affidavit.
And we'll discuss those with Captain Lafreniere at this point. So they submitted this to the court. Did the court ultimately grant the request for the administrative inspection warrant?
It did.
Let's turn your attention to page 23 of the document set.
Yes, sir.
Can you just briefly identify what this document is?
This is the warrant issued by presiding judge Edward J. Burke on June 13, 12, to allow for an administrative inspection of the property in accordance with all applicable laws at 75 Leverett Street.
Request, this is not part of the prior document, so this separate document request that this be submitted into the record.
Mr. Freeman?
Only with the standing objection to the warrant itself being issued in Sure.
Very good.
Thank you, and then, this document. So as a result of the administrative inspection warrant, request being issued, you went to the property, is that correct?
Yes, sir, on June 14th, the next day.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, we're talking about the basis for issuing the warrant. So, Mr. Freeman, do you have any questions for Mr. Parcells about anything he's testified up to this point?
Okay, I would like to clarify that there were two, as you, the court is clear, there are two participants in this process. The city will still need to call Captain Lafreniere to the
I
stand.
understand.
So based on your testimony, may I call you Fred? Fred, you were the one who initiated the investigation in 75 Leverett Street.
To the extent that I was the one in receipt of the complaint from various neighbors, and that I, in performance of my duty, followed through on that, yes.
Now, you were using the term the neighborhood earlier, but what you mean is specific individuals who live in the general vicinity when you say that.
It's a neighborhood group, which is comprised of individuals who live in the vicinity.
Were all of the members of the group complaining to you, or a limited number of them?
I couldn't testify to that now, enough of them, but
Can you make
all, I would
guess?
say probably not all, but.
How many? You count on one hand?